After a bitter divorce, an actor disguises himself as a female housekeeper to spend time with his children held in custody by his former wife.
This is Ryan.
And this is Ashley.
And this is
Ruining Our Childhood,
a nostalgic weekly podcast where a married couple rewatches and reviews our favorite 90s and 2000s movies to decide if they hold up to our adult standards.
That is what we do on this podcast.
Yeah.
Hi, guys.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to another great episode of Ruining Our Childhood, a podcast where we like to ruin childhoods.
We like to ruin childs. Oh, jeez.
This week we're doing the 1993 classic Mrs. Doubtfire.
Another recent poll winner picked by Ryan.
Do you like how cocky you are?
Yep.
When you do win, and then, like last week, you were like, let's not talk about this.
I don't remember last week.
Oh, you don't remember
Nope.
doing the movie we did last week?
Nope.
I Am Legend?
Nope.
Starring Will Smith?
Don't remember anything about it.
Oh, that's
Didn't
weird.
happen.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
I only remember the
Interesting.
weeks I win.
Must be nice. So, yeah, you won. Okay. Mrs. Doubtfire, probably a bigger success.
Yeah, I think financially probably.
Good for you.
Yeah. But this is definitely, I would say, the height of Robin Williams' popularity.
You think so?
I think so.
Okay.
He was rattling off some big-name movies around this time.
It's very true.
Yeah.
He was quite the movie star.
Yes.
So go ahead and hit us with some 1993 facts because you're looking at your phone like you're bored.
Nope. I was just reading another fact that I was going to throw out there in the facts. This movie was released on November 24th of 1993. It had a budget of $25 million and it grossed $441 million. It won the Golden Globe for Best Musical or Comedy, and Robin Williams won Best Actor at the Golden Globes for this movie as well. Popular TV shows were 60 Minutes, Home Improvement, and Seinfeld. The number one song the week the movie came out was Meatloaf, I'll Do Anything for Love, But I Won't Do That. Janet Jackson, Again, and then Mariah Carey, Hero.
Nice.
And then popular movies, Jurassic Park. This was actually the number 2 movie for the year, and the number 3 movie was The Fugitive.
Oh.
Yeah.
Some Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah.
Or is that Tommy Lee Jones?
Tommy Lee Jones
Okay.
and Harrison Ford.
Oh, yeah. I remember that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Harrison Ford. Anyway. So 1983, we've definitely done this year before in our past episodes. I don't know why I couldn't think of that word.
It's a hard one to come up with.
What do you remember about 1983 and this movie?
1993, I would have just turned 9.
Okay.
I saw this in theaters with my grandpa and my brothers, and I really enjoyed it to the point I remember buying the VHS for my mom for Mother's Day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because I was like, she needs to see this movie.
It's hilarious.
It was.
I don't remember seeing it in theaters, but I do remember we had it on VHS, and it was one of the ones that we actually owned on VHS, because I do remember.
Wasn't an Ashley's Dad's classic?
No, because I do remember the front of it with like the kids peeking out from behind Mrs. Doubtfire and Sally Field looking back at them.
And I'll give it up to you on saying her name correctly, because I do know I called her Sally Fields multiple times on a past episode.
You did.
Yeah.
Fields.
Yeah.
So many Sally Fields.
Ugh.
The thing I remember mostly from this movie is that he was a voice actor, and I thought that was cool. I'm pretty sure I mentioned that in a previous one. And then Mara Wilson's in it.
Yep.
Obviously, we talked about this movie a little bit on our Matilda episode. Basically, I think it's funny that anybody can get away with donning a disguise and tricking people.
See, and that's the scene I remember is when they're trying out all the different looks for him. And at one point, I remember him looking like Cleopatra.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I feel like he looked like a scary witch at one point.
Probably. Yeah.
It's just going to be a montage of probably really bad cultural appropriations.
There was one where, he puts on a prosthetic nose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's going to be interesting.
And we mentioned Mara Wilson, but another one of the children's is a Toddy family favorite, or an Ashley and Ryan family favorite, Matthew Lawrence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's okay.
Yeah.
I like him.
We like him. He was in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
That's true.
And he was on Boy Meets World.
That's very true.
Yeah.
The Lawrence brothers, man. They were something.
Yeah. Whoa.
What are we doing?
I don't know.
Do you think this movie is going to hold up for you?
I think there's going to be some parts that are a little dated and don't age particularly well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's going to hold up. I know for a fact, like this and Aladdin made me just think Robin Williams was amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
That never changed for me. I think out of any celebrity that passed away, this was the one that upset me the most. And I have just good memories of him. And this is probably my favorite one of his movies.
It's definitely up there for me. I think Hook is actually my favorite.
Okay.
But this one, I think, was probably a close second. And, well, actually, maybe Jack. I know. It's hard to say.
It's okay.
But I do think this movie will hold up. I think there will be some interesting things about it that might not hold up. But I think, like, the overall message that he was just so desperate to be near his children that he did this just so he could be closer to his children. I think that's nice.
Yeah.
Even though it's technically against the law. I mean, if you're breaking custody rules, but...
That's true.
You know.
It's a nice sentiment, but you're correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do remember this movie just being hilarious and a good time, but then also having just that underlying message of the fact that this family's broken and how it affects the kids and all that stuff. So I think that actually will make it seem like it holds up more than anything. Very
true. I think that's something that this might have been like a introduction to divorce for me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. That's probably accurate for me, too.
Yeah.
I just remember hating the mom in this because I also, and I bet you anything, we're going to rewatch this movie because I haven't seen it in a while, but I'm probably going to completely relate to the mom and understand her decisions and why she wanted to end the marriage and whatnot. But at the time when I was a kid, I was like, why would you want to get divorced from this guy who's hilarious?
Yeah.
Because
he's amazing.
Yeah. Ugh. But, when you're a kid, you don't realize, like, that stuff wears out fast if you're an adult. You need a very steady partner. Mm-hmm. And
stable.
Stable is a good word. Yeah.
And I don't know that we would classify Daniel. I remember that was his name.
Oh, I was like,
wow, did you think I was giving a shout out to my brother? No.
Yeah.
No. I remember his name was Daniel in this. I don't know why.
Oh.
I don't know the last time I watched this movie.
It's been a really long time for me, but when I was a kid, I did watch it a lot.
Yeah.
Again, it's a totally different world we lived in when we were kids, because if there was nothing on TV, there was nothing on TV.
Yeah.
And
you had
movies,
to own the movie.
Yeah.
There wasn't I'm going to go put on Netflix. Like, you had to own this.
Yeah.
And we did. And I know, like, when we got this movie, we didn't have a lot of movies either.
Yeah.
We had probably 10.
And you think about how much time you had as a kid, too.
Oh, yeah.
You had nowhere to be. It was amazing.
I don't know. Sometimes you're looking at your watch going, I got to get home. Full House is coming on.
Joke. That's not going to make sense.
It's not. But if you go listen to the other one and then you bring it back, you're going to go, that made sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not going to make sense
It's
at
an
all. Easter
egg. It's an Easter egg that will make sense down the line.
Okay.
Just wait for it, guys. You'll get it. You'll get it.
You're a dork.
I know. Where can this movie be streamed?
You can stream it on any of the HBO apps, HBO Max, HBO Now, HBO Go. I don't know if those all still exist, but according to justwatch.com, they do.
Okay.
And maybe DirecTV subscriptions.
All right.
Maybe. I don't know. But Those are the two places that you can get them if you already have one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And you can rent it, like we will, because we don't own it for some reason.
I don't know why we don't.
I don't know.
We had it on VHS.
I think when it would have been a movie that I would have bought, but I think I had seen it too much as a kid that I was like, I don't need to own this.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like my dad owned it on DVD though. I don't know. I have to ask him. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and hit that.
Pause.
And go watch the movie and come back and talk about it.
For show. Okay, and we're back. We just finished watching Mrs. Doubtfire, and we're going to go ahead and break down our movie with our categories.
Like we always do.
And the first category is, Well, Hello There.
Well, hello there.
Where we talk about any cameos of famous or recognizable actors or actresses that we forgot were in the movie. And there was some.
There was not a lot.
Not a lot.
But also not a little.
Yeah. Some. Who was the first one you noticed?
Martin Mull.
Mm-hmm.
We can go over the whole cast too, like the main family. But Martin Mull was the first person that I saw that wasn't part of the family. He played Justin Gregory, who I'm guessing was Miranda's boss. They don't really talk about him much, and he's only in like 2 scenes. Maybe even just 1 scene.
I felt like it was maybe just a coworker because I want to say her name is in the name of the company.
Oh.
It was something Hilliard.
Oh, okay. Maybe it was a partner.
As I say, maybe it's Gregory Hilliard.
Yeah.
Interior design.
That would make sense. Because he told her that Stu, who is another character.
Yes.
I won't say his name. Had called and said he wanted to do business with them. So that's why I assumed he was either her boss or her partner, probably. And Martin Mull is from a lot of things. He's been in a lot of comedies. Grozan. Roseanne. Clue. And, a bunch of other shit.
Britta Perry's father on Community.
Britta Perry's father on Community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My first one, obviously, we mentioned earlier, Robin Williams is in this. But they do show the kids, and one of the children is Mara Wilson.
Yes.
She plays Natalie, or Natty. And we did one of the movies she starred in a few weeks ago, which was Matilda.
Correct.
And the other big thing I remember her from was Miracle on 34th Street.
That is some of her movies.
Yeah.
And then we mentioned him before. Matthew Lawrence plays Chris, their son, the middle child. And yeah, he's been in Boy Meets World. He was in I think he was in Hot Chick. Didn't he play? It's been a really long time since I've seen that movie, but Rachel McAdams plays the. Did I say
McNadams?
I don't
Can't
know what's
talk.
wrong with my mouth. Rachel McAdams plays the character that Rob Schneider turns into, or vice versa, I guess.
I don't know that I ever saw this movie. I've heard of it.
With
I know
Anna
what you're
Faris?
talking about. I know the movie.
I make
but
a joke about the you can store your weed in there.
That's from the Hot Chick?
Yes. Every time we find a box.
Every time me and Ashley are in any trinket shop that opens up and it's a little box, I always tell her, you can store your weed in here.
Because that's, in Hot Chick, Adam Sandler has a cameo and they're at a shop in the mall and he does that with everything that he's showing them. Oh, Ryan.
Man.
Our marriage is a lie.
I cannot emphasize the amount of times we've been in World Market or Home Goods and I've picked up the book that opens up and it's really a box.
Yeah.
And I always go, you can store your weed in here. To the point you're like, I know I could store my weed in here. You're not entertained by it. Oh, God.
Oh, Ryan. Anyway.
Sorry.
We got a little derailment there, but I'm pretty sure Matthew Lawrence is in that movie.
Yes.
How do you know? You've never seen it.
No, I'm saying yes. That's where we were going with this story.
And who is your next person?
My next one is the third child, Lisa Jacob. She plays Lydia, kind of a bitchy teenager, as you would expect. I looked her up. The main thing that she did other than this was Independence Day.
Yeah. I think she quit acting. Is she an artist or am I thinking of the girl from Jurassic Park?
I think she quit acting, but I want to say she might be like a screenwriter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
She quit acting purposefully.
Yes.
I think I'm thinking of the girl from Jurassic Park. She's an artist.
Fair enough.
I was a 90s teen actor that quit acting. They're doing stuff.
Yeah.
My next one was Harvey Fierstein.
Firestein?
Mm-hmm. He plays Frank, and he does a lot of voice acting. He did a voice for Mulan, and a voice for a couple of voices for Family Guy, amongst other projects.
And I looked him up as well because I was like, I know his voice.
Yes.
Won a Tony Award back in the day for a play. So
he has a very distinct, rustic voice.
Yes. Yeah.
Sounds like he smoked thousands.
A lot of cigarettes.
Of cigarettes, yes. And he plays Frank, Daniel's father, who is Robin Williams' character. Mm-hmm. Who is your next one?
My next one is Polly Holiday, who is the old lady neighbor that calls...
I thought she looked familiar,
Miranda.
But I didn't look her up.
She was a secretary in All the President's Men. But she also was on the TV show Alice. She played the character Flo on Alice, which was a sitcom in the late 70s and early 80s. She won a Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actress and had her own spinoff.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know why she has such a small part in this movie.
I don't know. Hollywood, man.
Yeah.
But I thought she was familiar, but...
I was like, she looks really familiar.
All the President's Men makes sense.
Yeah.
There's Anne Haney, who plays Mrs. Sellner, who was the social worker that has to go check up on Daniel and make sure he's not living in squalor, basically, so that his kids can come over. And she's been in a bunch of things. Boy Meets World, Charmed, Liar Liar.
Yes.
Is probably the other movie that I remember her from.
Because she was Jim Carrey's...
Secretary?
Secretary, yeah.
And she actually passed away in like 2001, I think.
Yeah. I was going to say I didn't see that on her Wikipedia.
Which is sad, yeah.
Yeah.
I mostly remember her from this movie, though.
Yeah.
And just the whole scene where she's doing the checkup on him. And
I always remember her rubbing the meringue on her face.
Yeah. Who's your next one?
My next one was James Bond himself, Pierce Brosnan.
Yes.
Like I just mentioned, played James Bond in, I believe, 4 of the Bond films, and he was Remington Steele, and he's Pierce Brosnan. He's been in a ton of things.
Thomas Crown Affair. What was he in? Was he in Kingsman?
Ooh.
I feel like he should be, but I don't think he is. Maybe I'm making that up.
I'm looking him up because I know he was in something very recently that we saw him in.
Oh, The End of the World. Or am I making that up?
The End of the World with
Simon Pegg and Nick Frost?
Oh.
He plays their teacher,
The
right?
World's End.
The World's End, sorry.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
I suck.
You do suck. Mamma Mia. That was another thing he was in. And Remember Me with Robert Pattinson. And
he plays his dad.
Just a bunch of things.
I never saw that movie, by the way.
Wow. You're a terrible person.
What? Why?
Because you love the R-Pats.
I do.
It seems like it would be really sad.
Once I read what the premise was and what happens at the end, I was like, nah, I don't need to see it.
Yeah.
I'm good. You ruined the movie for me, you know?
Yeah.
Not you.
No. For a second, I thought you were like, you ruined it for me. I was like, well, it came out 10 years ago.
No, not you specifically. My next one was Robert Prosky, who plays Mr. Lundy, who ends up being Daniel's boss at the TV studio. He was the judge from Miracle on 34th Street. That's basically the only thing I remember him from, but he was also in Hill Street Blues and on an episode of Cheers.
Oh, okay. You hit the nail on the head for what I remember him from.
Yeah.
My next one was Rick Overton.
Okay.
He plays the host at the restaurant that they go to celebrate Miranda, who we didn't mention earlier. That's Sally Field.
Sally Fields. I'm just kidding. It's Field.
He played Mr. Beasley on The Office.
Okay.
But
Pam's dad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Crazy character actor, though. Was in Beverly Hills Cop. Pretty much going through his IMDb. Basically every television show you could ever think of, he was on at some point.
Who was he in this movie?
He's the host or the maitre d' at the restaurant they go to.
Oh, okay. He did look familiar.
Yeah.
And he kept giving Robin Williams dirty looks the whole time.
But the big thing I remember him from was Beverly Hills Cop.
Okay. That's pretty much all I had. We talked about everybody.
That's all I had?
Not too long.
No.
Not too short.
Some.
Some would say some.
Yeah.
Do you want to move on?
Yes.
The next category is called, kids would call it a throwback. We call it the prime of our teens or children times.
Yeah.
Where we talk about fashion, offensive jokes or dated references, and that's about it in this category.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, I always want to say a third thing. Maybe we should just make up a third thing. I was thinking about it specifically for this movie, was that there was a lot of jokes that I didn't understand as a kid.
Yes.
In this movie specifically, and I'm sure it's happened several times in some of the movies we've rewatched, but it's like jokes that weren't maybe not meant for children. The adults understand them, or scenarios that I didn't quite understand that now that I'm rewatching, I was like, oh yeah, okay. But
the whole dinner scene.
Yes. Yeah.
As a kid, didn't make sense.
Why he was so sloppy?
Yeah, he was so sloppy, and you brought up a good point. It's the classic cliche of somebody doing 2 dinners in the same restaurant, and they have to go back and forth between tables. Although this one, Robin Williams is switching back and forth between Mrs. Doubtfire and Daniel. And you brought up a good one when he was switching to Mrs. Doubtfire. At one point, he was dousing himself in perfume.
Right.
And you're like, oh, yeah, he's drunk.
Yeah, because
like, oh, good point.
When he has a meeting with Mr. Lundy, he has like 4 scotches.
Yeah.
In a matter of a very small amount of time. I mean, it's movie time, so it could have been like 20 minutes for all we know, but that's still lot of booze.
They were like all doubles, too.
And so when he gets to the bathroom and he's dousing himself with perfume, when I was a kid, I was confused by that. I was like, why is he doing that? Yeah. And I realized, because he smells like liquor.
I was say, he's boozed up.
And then I did not really understand when he comes back to Mr. Lundy, and Mr. Lundy's like, he's still wearing some makeup. And he's like, you're wearing lipstick and something else. Oh, are you the perfume? And he's just like, saw an old girlfriend, but he's just so drunk, and I never understood why he was so sloppy, and because I didn't really know the effects of alcohol as much as I do now.
He walked into like a counter, and then also I realized when he goes to pour the pepper on Pierce Brosnan's food, he's walking through the kitchen and he is bouncing. Yeah, he is using the counters in the kitchen for stability, and I was like, oh, it all makes sense.
I think as a kid I thought it was just like the stress of having to juggle going between the tables and switching your appearance.
It's like, nope, drunk.
That did not help matters.
No.
But anyway, fashion.
A lot of early 90s fashion. The big thing I noticed was Chris has a terrible haircut.
Yes.
Matthew Lawrence's hair is awful.
It's like they use that succum cutter from the Wayne's World.
Wayne's World? It's a suck.
Yeah.
It sucks while it cuts. Yeah, it's a terrible haircut.
Yeah, it was very, very horrible. I loved everything that Lydia wore. I would totally rock all of those things.
Because she wore like a vest, I think, at one point.
I want a vest.
But when Daniel would switch into Mrs. Doubtfire, he was very elegantly dressed as just your usual old lady.
Yeah, like a woman of her age.
Yeah.
At that time. Very elegant, British, proper. I think the only thing that I had was really none of the female clothes were too outrageous, because I think a lot of the styles, again, have kind of come full circle. They're kind of in again. But Chris and Daniel's clothes in the beginning of the movie, when he throws a party for his kids, mostly for Chris because he's turning 12, and they're both wearing super baggy clothes. I mean, I think it's actually come back a little bit in certain aspects, but just not everything baggy. Like maybe one baggy item, and then, your pants are nice and cut slim, but
baggy pants.
In the 90s, everybody was just swimming in their clothing.
Pretty much. It was a good look.
Sure.
I did like when Daniel's at the birthday party and he just has the top button on his shirt, and all the rest of his buttons are undone because he's trying to look cool for his son.
But it's funny because I feel like, and maybe this is obviously one of the issues in their marriage, is that his dynamic, his kids don't see him as a parent. They see him as their buddy.
Yeah.
So they were happy with him dancing with him on the table when Miranda comes home, and she's the bad parent. She's the parent that has to be strict, and that's what causes the strain in their marriage, because he never wants to take anything seriously.
When I was a kid, it was like, oh, that's a naggy parent. As an adult, when I'm watching, I'm like, yeah, you just came home to a fucking zoo in your house.
Yeah.
I don't blame you for being pissed at all.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there was parts of, and we'll discuss them, I'm sure, a little bit later, of Miranda that I felt was being a little too unfair, because he is a good father, I think, overall, but he is irresponsible, and I guess he doesn't have like a real day job, so that's a factor, I guess. But she seems pretty successful. They have a nice house.
They have a very nice house.
They do.
Like
a little too nice for probably
an interior designer.
I don't know. She owns her own business.
I was going to say, her name was on the building, on the wall.
Yeah.
What offensive jokes and dated references did you have?
So this movie is based on a person dressing as a woman. And he does it as a means to an end, to be able to spend time with his children, because his wife asked him for his divorce, and then he's not given full custody. He's given, like, he gets visits once a week or something like that.
Yeah.
And because he doesn't have a traditional job and it's not very steady, and then he lives in one of the most expensive cities in the world, of course he can't like live in a really nice apartment with what he's making. So I know that's a factor. But so he dresses as a female, and I think there is a lot of transphobic type jokes. I won't say a lot, but they do exist in the movie. When Chris finds him peeing in the bathroom, and he's like, call the police, and you're like, whoa, calm down, kid. But
that was actually my cringiest moment.
Yeah.
But I'll talk about it here, was, right away he freaks out and he's like, Mrs. Doubtfire has a penis. And right away Daniel tells him, he's like, it's me.
Right.
It's Dad. And he tells him, he's like, I didn't have any surgeries or anything. He's like, it's all a costume. And then Chris wouldn't hug him. Yeah,
I didn't get that joke. Even back then.
Yeah.
I didn't get that joke.
When I watched it here, I was just like, okay, he just told you, like, you know why he's doing this.
Yeah.
It's your dad, dude.
Like, I guess maybe he's trying to process, like, the fact that his dad would dress up as a woman. Like, it's the worst thing in the world, kind of. And I don't know. I don't get that. It's very transphobic to me.
Yeah. Because also he knew Daniel as Mrs. Doubtfire as well, and was very fond of her.
Right.
So it doesn't add up to me, other than the outfit and the makeup is very well done, to the point he might have been like, I can't wrap my head around it, but I'm still like
creeped out about it.
Still like, Lydia immediately gave him a hug. I'm like, it's your dad, you dork.
And then he's like, I get it, it's a guy thing. And I'm like, what? Yeah. What does that mean? You can't hug your dad?
Yeah.
But you hugged your dad in a previous scene, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But you can't hug your dad because he's wearing basically a fat suit with female breasts on it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I get how this movie could seem transphobic especially to people in the trans community, because it does poke fun at the concept of changing your appearance. And while Daniel's not doing it because he wants to become a woman, he's just doing it as a way to be closer to his children, it still kind of pokes fun at even the thought of him having to go to those extremes, and I'm using a air quote, the extremes of changing your sex, essentially. But that was honestly the worst part, was when Chris finds him. And there was another one that I felt like, just like the judge at the end, when he's caught, at the restaurant, he saves Stu from choking, and then that reveals that he's wearing a costume, and the judge was making judgments as if he was considering, like transitioning or something.
Yeah.
And he's like, we don't want to put your children through this and all this stuff.
And they were going to send him for psychiatric evaluations.
Yeah. And it's just, even he makes like a very impassionate speech about how he was driven by that because he loves his kids and he's a good father. And it's like, in the first place, he shouldn't have been given the 1 day a week,
Yeah, it didn't make sense that that's all he was awarded.
Yeah.
Because I know Miranda was frustrated with him, but also even she knows he was a good dad to these kids.
Yeah.
That you would go in and be like, yeah, just Saturdays for a few hours. That's all you can see your kids for. What?
But you always picked your kids up from school when you needed to. Like, you were there for your children.
Yeah.
I think it would have made more sense if he was never around for his kids and he was always late and he was a screw up in that sense. Then, yeah, maybe you shouldn't have full rights to your children because you can't put them first. But he clearly put them first. Maybe a little too much at times.
It didn't make sense that there wouldn't have been joint custody awarded off the bat. Although I will say the judge was like, this will all be reevaluated in 90 days. We just want to see that you can get an apartment and establish employment. And
then he establishes all that, but because he did what he did, which I'm not saying is right.
No.
Because he did deceive people. But it's still shitty in the first place.
Very much so.
Did you have any dated reference, or we kind of went on a tangent?
Yeah, we really got deep into like some plot points. Daniel drives a sweet station wagon with some wood paneling.
Yes.
Kids are watching Dick Van Dyke. And Natalie likes to read Charlotte's Web. That's all I had. That's
true. The only other joke I did not get as a kid, and I would like to put in this category, was at the dinner scene. After Daniel, or he goes back to the table, and Mr. Lindy's like, oh, you have lipstick on, and you smell like perfume, and he's like telling him, I hooked up with an ex-girlfriend, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, does your girlfriend have a girlfriend? And meaning, like, does your girlfriend have a friend
for me?
For him. But then Daniel's like, hey, it's the 90s. Thinking like, oh, does your girlfriend have an actual girlfriend?
Yeah.
Which I just put in the references because he said, hey, it's the 90s. And that automatically dates the movie.
Very true.
And haha, lesbian reference. I don't.
Haha.
And I didn't get that joke when I was a kid.
No. There was a lot that flew over my head as a child. I was just like,
he's talking... Does your girlfriend have a girlfriend?
Yeah.
Did you have anything else?
I did not. Are you ready to move on to our next category?
Yes.
We're going to go ahead and fire up our television and watch some old Dick Van Dyke and talk about some technology. There wasn't a lot.
The only thing I had was Miranda, when she puts the ad out for housekeeper, and then Daniel's basically like prank calling her with all these crazy people. She has a very clunky flip phone. And she's like talking to one of the callers while she's driving. That's the only thing I noticed. I mean, there was a lot of telephones and stuff, but they didn't.
Yeah, it's just the usual things that you would expect in a movie from 1993. And there was corded phones, boxy television.
The remote that Mrs. Doubtfire throws into the water tank because Lydia's
being a bitch.
She is. Was very big. This very large remote. But yeah, I didn't really have anything else. I was just excited with the soundtrack that at the beginning they were playing Jump Around at Chris's birthday party.
Some House of Pain.
Yeah.
I always remember that scene, partly because of the dumb dancing that Daniel and Chris do on the table with his friend. But also, it's that song.
Yeah.
Jump Around. There was some good other songs on this. They had Luck Be a Lady by Frank Sinatra. Papa's Got a Brand New Bag by James Brown. Dude Looks Like a Lady by Aerosmith. And then the other one, Walk Like a Man by Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. They had to get you on all those, hey, it's a lady
It's
songs.
A man dressed up like a lady.
Yeah. Other than House of Pain, obviously.
Yeah. What was your funniest? Or what are we doing? Where are we?
I don't
We're not even...
We need to get digging.
Did you have anything else?
That was it for that category.
Okay, we can move on. Sorry, I'm just like, what's going
What's going on?
The next category is called Is It Even Good? Where we talk about the plot and the plot holes. And we name our funniest and cringiest moment, which Ryan already said is cringiest, but I digress. What did you think about the plot?
I understand the Daniel wanting to see his kids more often, and he's going to an extreme to do it. The part that I don't know that this could be made today, because when he calls and tries to be this fake person, I'm assuming Miranda would do her due diligence and Google said person and see that Mrs. Doubtfire does not exist.
I mean, if you want to just move right into plot holes, I thought the fact that he was calling and doing all these voices, which they established very early in the movie that he likes to do voices and that he's very good at impressions.
Yes.
So you're telling me that your wife of 14 years has never heard any of these impressions that you're rolling through?
Yes.
If you tried to prank call me, I would know it was you, even if you were really good at doing an impression of a random person.
Because you've heard all of my voices.
Yes, I've heard all of your voices. I know them very well.
Yes.
So the fact that they're getting divorced doesn't surprise me if she can't even pick up that her ex-husband's prank calling her.
The other thing is, it's all unnecessary.
Yes.
He could have called her as Mrs. Doubtfire and blow her socks off of her, and her be like, this is the person.
Blow her socks off of her?
Yeah, blow her socks off of her. But this is the one. She seems like a sweet lady. This is who I should hire. Why are you going through, Layla, get back in her cell and all this? Like, you don't need to do that.
He's building up her desperation almost. That he doesn't even have to oversell Mrs. Doubtfire, even though he does sell her perfectly. She sounds like a dream. Mm-hmm. But he's still like that desperation of like anybody will do as long as they're not crazy.
Yeah.
And sound like they're going to murder my children.
And the other part is he puts all this effort in, but he didn't put the effort to think of a name. That's
true. Which is a total classic movie and television thing. When you're caught in a lie and you got to make up a name, you look around the room and you're just like,
it's going to be Space Mansion. I looked at the pictures on our wall, and we have Space Mountain and the Haunted Mansion, guys.
Ariel Marvel.
There you go. That's the name.
Yeah. But, yeah, that was my biggest pet peeve about the whole thing. Did you have any other plot holes? Because I had a couple.
I thought it was interesting. It's not really a plot hole, more of an observation. It seems like Miranda's driving a Ford Taurus.
Yeah.
But they live in this house that I would assume probably costs about $5 million.
Yeah, maybe she's not a big car person.
Yeah, but Ford Taurus?
Ford Tauruses are amazing.
If you say so.
Says the guy that drove a Ford Tempo.
I wasn't living in San Francisco and in a really nice house. I was 18 and living with my parents.
That's true. I also drove a Ford Tempo, by the way.
Yeah. Hold back the judging.
Oh, well, I'm not saying Ford Tempos or Tauruses were bad cars.
That's true.
My other one was, so they go to the pool, right? Mm-hmm. Stu invites the whole family to go and Mrs. Doubtfire for some reason. And Mrs. Doubtfire's at the bar drinking because obviously she can't go in the pool because her body's made of like foam. That would be a dead giveaway. She would just like float.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Doubtfire / Daniel overhears Stu talking to this guy. And when Stu walks away, the guy's looking over at Mrs. Doubtfire and Mrs. Doubtfire says it in Daniel's voice, like, what are you looking at? And I'm like, why would you say that to somebody that clearly knows Stu? Like, he could tell Stu, like, there's something up with that lady.
Yeah.
She sounds like a 40-year-old man.
The only thing I can think of was the implication was that he had finished one beer.
Yeah.
And he had already gotten the next one. I don't know how many he's had, but I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
Focus on the game. Yeah, you got to be using your Mrs. Doubtfire voice right now.
24/7. Did you have anything else?
You brought it up when they go to the pool. It's not a plot hole. It was just kind of like, what the hell? The kids are all wearing sweaters when they get to the pool.
It's San Francisco, though.
Then don't go in a pool.
Also true.
I was like, Lydia, you're in like a really thick sweater.
Maybe the pool is heated. I don't know.
There was no steam coming off that pool.
That's true.
Yeah.
You're very correct.
Yes.
Who knows what time of the year it is? They don't care.
No.
I also wondered how much time, obviously some time had gone on between when they actually got a divorce, when the court proceedings were, when he turned into Miss Doubtfire and he'd been with them for like a month or two.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like her dating Stu seemed very sudden. And even when I was a kid, I felt like, whoa, lady, you just got divorced. You're already like up on Pierce Brosnan?
It seemed like they have their initial court appearance and he awards Daniel 90 days to get his life in order. And then at the end, when they have the second court appearance, I feel like that was 90 days later.
Yeah.
So that's a great point. She's already in a very serious relationship with Pierce Brosnan.
I don't know if it's like a serious relationship, but one thing about this movie is that they don't really show them like kissing or showing affection or anything. They just go on, they've spend time with each other, and it seems like he spends time with the kids.
That's my point. Yeah.
Which is another thing, like if you've just gotten divorced, you'd be wary about bringing a guy over to meet your kids, because if you're just getting back in the dating game, who knows how long this is gonna last.
Yeah.
Apparently she was just like, hey, I've dated him before and I want to date him again.
And you know what, I can't blame her.
I think it's funny because it's another thing. When I was a kid, I hated Stu. I thought Pierce Brosnan was like this evil villain.
Yeah.
And while he is kind of douchey,
he's still not bad.
No, like the whole scene at the pool when he's talking to his friend and his friend's like, whoa, you're dating a lady with kids.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, when I was a kid, I thought he was like talking shit about the family, but he actually is like, yeah, her kids are great.
Yeah.
And I'm ready, I'm 40 years old. I'm ready to have a family. And I was just like, whoa, there's nothing wrong with this guy other than he's kind of the direct opposite of Daniel.
Yeah.
But doesn't seem like that bad of a guy.
He's just as hairy.
But I mean, like, he's driven and more serious, and
he's very successful.
But I also get Daniel's jealousy of him because he is kind of swooping in there.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids seem to like him for the most part. They don't hate him.
No, because he's a good dude.
Yeah.
I have one last one, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Daniel has Colin and gotten the job as Mrs. Doubtfire.
Uh-huh.
So now he needs makeup. So
right.
he goes to his brother, Frank, who is a makeup artist.
Yeah, who conveniently does makeup and special effects, it looks like.
Yeah, because if you look at Mrs. Doubtfire, he's clearly good at what he does.
Yeah.
But I felt like they're going through all these different trials of trying to come up with a look for him, and it's Cleopatra. There's one that's clearly Barbra Streisand.
It looks like Cleopatra, but I think it's just like a lady from Jersey.
Okay. Well, none of them make... When you look at that, did you go, that's Mrs. Doubtfire?
Yeah.
And when he's Barbra Streisand, is that Mrs. Doubtfire? None of those have the look of an old British lady.
Yeah.
And all of them look just like Robin Williams with a nose or a wig on.
That's true.
So I'm like, why are you guys wasting your time?
Because it's funny.
It was. It's a great scene.
Yeah. That actually leads me to my funniest moment, was that moment, because just mostly when they're singing Fiddler on the Roof and when he does his Barbara.
Yes.
That was pretty funny.
That is the scene that stands out for me from my childhood.
Yeah.
I always love that scene.
Same.
Yeah, the matchmaker, make me a match.
Because he's like, I look too much like Bubby, like their Bubby. And then like at the end, Frank says, he's like, if I get any better, you'll look exactly like Mom.
Yeah.
Which is another thing that I'm like, if you do kind of even resemble your mom, how is that not a red flag for Miranda?
Yeah.
When she first sees her.
Definitely.
What was your funniest liner moment?
I had a lot of the moments that I remembered from my childhood, but there was one that I never picked up on, and I was like, that's pretty damn funny, is Miranda asks Mrs. Doubtfire how her husband died. She was like, how did Winston pass? And he goes, he was quite fond of the drink. And she goes, oh, was he an alcoholic? And he was like, no, he was hit by a Guinness truck. It literally killed him. And I was just like, that's such a good, like, joke. And it was dead humor. I was like, oh, that's so funny. And as a kid, I never caught that.
Yeah. There was a lot of just, like, under the breath jokes. And I was reading in the trivia that Chris Columbus, who directed this movie, really let Robin Williams just kind of go nuts with his improv. and then they just kind of took what they thought was best. But they even had so much material that they could have made this movie like fit every single rating depending on what jokes they wanted to use.
Really?
Yeah.
I did see, and it makes me want to buy the Blu-ray. There's like 30 minutes of deleted scenes.
Oh, geez. It's probably amazing.
Yeah. What was your cringiest moment? Because I already said mine.
Just, it wasn't necessarily like cringy, like, oh my God, that's so dated, but just almost like realistic cringy was the first time that Miranda comes to pick up the kids from Daniel's new apartment. Since he is kind of like the slacker guy who doesn't really put any effort into anything, his apartment is pretty disheveled and
he just moved in.
He just moved in, but he's a messy dude.
Mm-hmm.
And she just walks in and she like gives him the judgiest look, like, and I'm like, he's there because you asked for a divorce, so like cool it with the judgment, lady. But at the same time, just their banter between them was very hostile.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that I found cringy about it was that the kids were like right there, so they're doing it in front of the kids.
Yeah.
And that is not cool.
No, it wasn't.
But I understand that happens, and divorces are messy. And I think this movie does a really good job about depicting how messy divorces can get.
And they don't need to be.
Well,
in a lot of cases, they don't need to be messy.
And like there's a scene when Mrs. Doubtfire first comes to the house and Miranda says something mean about Daniel, and Mrs. Doubtfire is like, you should probably excuse the children before you decide to talk about their father like that. And she's like, if I had to excuse them every time I talked about their father like that, I'd never see him.
Yeah.
But then like the look of judgment from Mrs. Doubtfire and the look of like on Miranda's face of like, oh, that makes me a horrible person.
Yeah.
It was funny, but it was also kind of like depressing a little bit. It's coming from Mrs. Doubtfire as like a judgment, but it's also coming from Daniel of being like, hey, how about you don't talk crap about me in front of our kids?
Yeah.
But yeah, there's just like a lot of subtle moments like that are really like realistic with the emotions of a divorce. And
yeah. Obviously,
I assume I've never been through a divorce.
I was going to say, we've never been through it, but we had to deal with custody issues when we worked in our previous jobs. Yeah. And you could kind of see the dysfunction that some families had.
Well, especially in this case of this movie, it's really one-sided, the divorce. It wasn't like a mutual thing. Mm-hmm. Daniel was perfectly fine. Like, maybe he wasn't happy in the marriage, but he also didn't put a lot of effort into fighting it.
I agree.
Or fighting for it. I guess the other joke I would put in the category for I didn't get as a kid was at the dinner scene. This whole scene's just filled with things I didn't understand as a kid. Was when he's trying to get up from the table with the family so he can go change and meet the Mr. Lundy. He's like, I need to, or Mrs. Doubtfire's like, I need to take my pills. And Miranda's like, we have water right here. You can take your pills. She's like, oh, I can't take them orally, dear. And I never understood that. And I realized, like,
he's going to go take a suppository.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, gross. Hey. Did you have anything else you wanted to discuss?
I thought it was, and we kind of just talked about it a little bit, right away when Miranda says she wants to hire essentially a nanny and a housekeeper, Daniel offers to do that.
Right.
And he's like, I'd love to see the kids. Let me do it. And she's so spiteful. She's like, no.
Even though the divorce is her idea.
Yeah.
But I think it's like part of the reason she wanted the marriage is that she's always the bad guy. Mm-hmm. And she didn't want that dynamic anymore. And I guess if she would allow the kids to spend as much time with him, like, there still would be that dynamic.
But it was going to be less likely to happen. Because
that's true.
By doing that and being spiteful, the kids were still like, we want to see dad.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was kind of lose-lose, but I think it was more your decision made it you the loser on this one.
Right.
Especially in your kids' eyes.
Oh, the only other thing I had was, I don't know, I feel like I mentioned this in the podcast when we were talking about like English accents. Mm-hmm. This was the first time I realized from this movie is when I learned that there was different kinds of English accents. When Stu meets Mrs. Doubtfire the first time, he's trying to like pinpoint her accent and see what region of England she's from. And because it's a made up accent, it's like a little wishy-washy. Mm-hmm. And like when I was a kid, I was like, there's British accents and not British
Yeah.
accents.
Yeah, you don't realize there's different regions of that. Yeah.
And some people talk really proper and some really hard to understand.
Like, let's say Cockney?
Cockney and if you're from Derby?
Yes. Yeah.
I can understand them all now pretty much, but...
Yeah, we watch a lot of British TV.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you want to move on?
Yes. As always, it is award season here on Ruining Our Childhood. We give out 2 awards every week, the first of which is the valedictorian to the Nicolas Cage Online School of Bad Acting. Whom did you give your award to?
I thought out of the main cast, everybody served a purpose for the most part. Everybody was really well written as characters, but the one that I chose was just because there's 3 of them, and he fell a little short in my eyes. Matthew Lawrence, Chris.
I was sitting there going, that's who I gave mine to as well. And as soon as you started talking, you went, there's 3 of them. Like, she's going to give it to the same kid. Because Mara Wilson is adorable.
Freaking adorable.
Lydia does a good job being the bitchy teenager at times.
But the older, more responsible one.
Yes. And then Chris, I kind of go back to that moment where you wouldn't give your dad a hug.
Right. Honestly, if they were to erase them having a male child, it would get rid of half of the transphobic type problematic jokes in this movie.
Yeah, very true.
And the kid asked for a stripper for his 12th birthday.
Very true.
The very beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Nothing against Matthew Lawrence or anything. His acting was fine, but it's just, you need to have the ex-wife, and Sally Field obviously did an amazing job. You had to have, I guess, the new love interest of
Pierce
Stu.
When we ended the movie, I looked at you and I said, I feel like I need to nitpick to find a worst actor. Because, yeah, they were all good actors. And we talked about it earlier, we like Matthew Lawrence. We were Big Boy Meets World fans. We like Joey Lawrence. We like the Lawrence brothers, folks.
You said Big Boy Meets World.
Big Boy Meets World fans. Big Boy.
I was like, I don't know if I've ever seen that show, Big Boy Meets World. Do you want to move on to the next award? The next award is the Thomas J. Hanks Award for Exceptional Acting, and I'm guessing we probably have the same person.
I would hope.
Unless you threw a curveball.
Sally Field. No, Robin Williams. He's everything you would want from a Robin Williams in the sense he does a ton of impressions.
Right.
Does a really good Porky Pig impression. But then he also tugs at your heartstrings as this dad who just wants to see and be involved in his kids' lives.
Yeah, that last speech at the last court hearing at the end of the movie. And even the speech that he kind of gives her when she goes to the TV studio. He gets a TV show deal as Mrs. Doubtfire, and they have a talk. And just that speech, he was very, I don't know, it just tugged at your heartstrings, and it was kind of heartbreaking because how passionate he was about trying to see his kids. And it's something I feel like at the time you didn't see tons of in movies, because I feel like male characters were written in a lot of movies for the longest time as these people that provided for their children, but they never put their children first. Like, how many movies can you think of where the dad works too much, is never there, and he's kind of like this cold, stoic figure in the family?
I think about right now we're binge watching Mad Men.
Yes.
And Don Draper. He
has his moments.
Very few and far between.
Yeah.
He's that and I know it's a different time period.
Right.
But the kids are almost a burden to him at times.
Yeah.
Whereas, Daniel in this movie is not that.
Right.
His kids are his everything.
Yeah. And he does it well, Robin Williams. I loved all of the scenes that he's in with Pierce Brosnan. Like, I thought they played off each other quite well, because I loved Pierce Brosnan's face every time he would say something to him, because in Stu's mind, he's Mrs. Doubtfire, this older English lady, and she would say the rudest things to him, but in the nicest way. Yeah. But he knew. And he just had this look like, I really want to punch you, but I can't punch an old lady, Yeah. But all the stuff that he would say to him was always hilarious. But yeah, I enjoyed it. And there was times too where I almost forgot that he was Daniel. Like when he was having a heart-to-heart with Lydia, like the first night he worked, and he was leaving, and she comes out and apologizes for being kind of rude to her. And he's just like straight in character, and you almost forget that he's Daniel and not Mrs. Doubtfire.
The very first scene where he comes over to meet the family.
Yeah.
I was like, even as, this is 27 years later, I'm like, that's Robin Williams underneath there. Like,
yeah.
The makeup is fantastic. And then his accent at no point does it break or sound bad. He's not Jamie Dornan trying to do an American accent in 50 Shades of Grey.
No,
you remember why he was such a great actor and why he won the Golden Globe for this movie. Yeah. He's amazing.
No, I agree. It's like, we've mentioned this before, but there's movies that you liked as kids and you remember all the zany and funny parts, him trying on different makeup looks or having to deceive the social worker and having to stick his face in the pie or in the meringue and all those parts. But the thing that stuck with me in this movie was just how realistic the emotions were of the family going through this divorce and the kids. And it was just like a really well done movie, despite the flaws of being slightly transphobic.
I was going to say, being a little transphobic, yeah.
So, do you want to move on to answer the question, does this movie hold up?
I say, without a doubt, it held up. It was still, like we talked about, it wasn't just slapstick funniness that I remember from as a kid. It has its issues with not portraying the trans community very well, but it still was a really well-written movie, well-acted, and just a decent movie.
Right.
I really enjoyed it.
I don't even think I would say, like, it depicts the trans community at all, but I think if you're looking back at it, like, I was thinking about the documentary we watched a couple weeks ago, Disclosure, which is about trans characters and actors in pop culture.
Yes.
And I want to say they might have slightly mentioned this movie. Just the fact that at the time, there's only so many, I guess, things that you could, I guess, put in that category of seeming like trans. Like a man dressing up a woman is like a drag queen or a transvestite. They would use the word.
Yes.
Which would be trans or transsexual now. So I just think because there wasn't a lot of other depictions, this does look bad in that sense, because that's what people that don't know anything about transsexuals, that's what their mind goes to. Or like in Disclosure, they talked about Silence of the Lambs.
Yes.
How that's what people, because they'd never met a trans person, the only thing they see is what they see in media or movies, TV. And that's why it's important to have positive depictions.
Yes.
Because he wasn't like, this is what he wanted to do for the rest of his life or anything like that. It's just, like I said earlier, a means to the end. But I can see how anybody would see it as being slightly transphobic.
I think it was just that scene with Chris walking in on him peeing and freaking out. I would have been the same way at 9 years old when this movie came out because I was not aware.
Well, it would have been confusing.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think the way they played it up for comedy's sake, that's what makes it transphobic.
Yes.
It's something that we've had to deal with in a lot of the movies rewatch, as far as jokes that it's almost like nothing was off limits back in the day, and now we do have limits, and it's not a bad thing. No. But we can still watch movies like this and see that 90% of the movie is still really well written and kind of deep and funny. Yeah.
Well acted.
Yeah. Yeah. So I do agree in that instance it does hold up because the majority of the movie is really good. It's just they probably could take out the part where his son screams like a crazy person because he thought his housekeeper had a penis.
Agreed.
Got really deep on this one again.
We really did.
So, yeah. We both agree it holds up. It's still a delightful movie.
It is. If you guys get a chance, rent it, or if you have HBO services, go stream it. It's a good movie.
Or if you own it, like we don't.
We don't
own it.
No, we don't.
Next week, we'll have another movie for you, probably. So next week, we're doing a Jim Carrey week.
Yes.
You're excited about this. We've been planning this for a while.
Yes.
And I know we did Ace Ventura.
And we did Batman Forever.
Yeah, but we had been planning to do a Jim Carrey week for a while now. So your pick is...
the 1994 classic Dumb and Dumber.
You would.
Yes.
And my pick is Bruce Almighty.
Yes.
I really liked Bruce Almighty when it came out.
2009, going backwards, everything the man did, I love.
Yeah.
So, whichever one wins, I will be excited because I have not seen Bruce Almighty in quite a few years, or Dumb and Dumber. But I do know we own both of them.
Sweet. It's my birthday next week, guys.
Yeah.
So that's exciting.
Somebody's 34. Keep in mind, folks, I will always be older than Ashley.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
30 was a big year for me.
Yeah, you didn't do well with that one.
But I think I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine.
I'm fine. So, go over to our Facebook on Wednesday and vote in our poll. You can pick either Dumb and Dumber or Bruce Almighty. Head over to our Twitter, ROC Movie Podcast. You can vote on Wednesday as well.
Yes, but keep in mind it's my birthday, so, I mean, I'm just kidding.
Drop it in the notes. Happy birthday, Ashley. Even though, keep in mind, her birthday's next week.
But thanks for listening, guys. Also, we should be announcing our giveaway winner.
Yes.
At some point. Probably tomorrow.
Yeah.
I was supposed to announce it today.
But we didn't set up the spreadsheet yet.
No.
We'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah. So you'll probably already know if you're the winner. Mm-hmm. Congratulations, person that won.
And if you're wondering what we're talking about, get over to our website, ruiningourchildhood.com, and join the Ruiners Club. So if we do another giveaway down the line, you can get entered in that.
Yes. And also, we just recorded a new minisode exclusive for the Ruiners Club coming up soon.
Might have something to do with
the joke you made earlier.
The joke I made earlier. I said it would all make sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we'll announce that sometime next week, maybe.
For sure.
I don't know. I'm not making up rules. I mean, I do make up the rules.
Yes, you do.
Okay. But anyway, thanks for listening, guys. Hope you have a great week.
And we'll see you next time. Or you'll hear us next time.
You'll hear us with your ears.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.